fabricating it. It, oh, okay. So in a sense, it is fabricating because we don't. It's a wish, and we'll talk about that a little later. But this sort of aspiring to want to improve ourselves and want to become the best we can, so that we can be a benefit to others, to ourselves and to others, because we're all in the same boat. Have you ever been in a situation where you're really dependent on other people? I mean, I went out in a boat. I was in Australia, and four of us went out in this little plywood boat that was leaking, and we were going to cross. I was in my 20s. We were kind of being pretty stupid, I must say, but we were going to cross this inlet to this other island on the other side. Let's go over there. Yeah, let's go over there. So we get in the boat, and our oars were plywood, excuse me, 2x4s, like 2 inches by 4 inches, and the boat's leaking. And so two people are rowing. One is sort of directing us, and one's bailing water out. It's that bad. And we get out in the middle, and the current is so strong, it's pulling us out into the open sea. And so all we can do is paddle against the current to not go out to the open sea. We couldn't even keep going across. And so we're kind of like taking turns paddling, we're taking turns bailing, and we're pretty. The mission was foolhardy to begin with, and we're not very, so we don't have life jackets. We don't have, um, you'd think we were on drugs. We probably were. So so then this boat comes and says, "You guys okay? You guys okay?" And he circles around us. Um, I was in early 20s, and oh yeah, yeah, I think we're okay. So then we made a decision to turn back. Like, we shouldn't keep going. This isn't good. So we had to agree on that, right? Or somebody had to take the lead and say, this is what we should do. At one point, somebody said, I don't want to paddle anymore. I don't want to row. I don't want to have to row anymore. And we went, well, we all have to try to chip in. We're all in this together. If we don't get back, we could drown. You know, yeah. So we turned back, and the moon came out, and it got late, right? The moon came out, full moon. It was beautiful, but it was like, and we come up on the beach in the dark, and I was with Bev then, the person I love, admire, and live with, and they were worried, totally worried about us. So not only were we having this experience that was affecting us that was dangerous, but it affects others. So so we made it back. But I mean, we're all in, that always, when I think we're all, that expression, we're in the same boat. You think about your hands and your fingers. Your hands and fingers work together when you wash your hands. Do we really does the little finger say, "Hey, I don't want to do this today. I'm tired of this." You're all, or the right hand saying, left hand, you're always like pushing me around and getting all the soap. It's just not fair. They just, right? It just, and sometimes we do it unconsciously, right? We're not really like, we don't even have to, right? So and this body's working without us consciously doing anything, right? And we take it for granted. We take it for granted that people supply this building, supply our cars to get here, supply, that all these things had to be made by other people. So this motivation to it's an altruistic motivation. We can hope people don't suffer. We can hope they get totally free of suffering. We can hope that they become enlightened and fully developed to help others, right? So that's a good one to hang our hat on, to try to aspire to that, right? Um, so anyway, so maybe let's just start with a little short meditation just to be in the room, okay? So the main part about this will just be short, in 2 hours or so. Oh, okay. No, we'll do that. Should we do that? No, okay. 5 minutes or so. Um, Not even that. Just relax, just be here in the room and let go of any concerns about the past, worries about the future, things you're going to do afterwards, where you're going to go. Just be present in this room, in your body, fully embodied. Bring your awareness into your feet and your legs and just be aware of what's going on in your body. Give it some attention, some appreciation. And then same with the mental consciousness. Just let go of concerns. Feel the spaciousness of your awareness. Just being present. The mind will wander off and start thinking about something and just gently bring it back and be in awareness of your body and mind. Okay. So this is the second class of four. The fourth one we'll explore a little more about just the healing power of awareness. Just being in awareness is something we're not used to doing. We don't always often trust it, but can be uh, quite healing to the body. So I wanted to last time we brought up the peace walk, the monks. Everybody familiar with that? This walk going on, Texas to Washington D.C. Yeah, they made it, right. They made it to Washington D.C. And last week I mentioned this Christian woman who was just so enamored with what they were doing, and we need more of this, and we need to be focused more on peace and harmony and people being together in a nonviolent way and just celebrating life. And this was something that this is about bringing up the skillful means part of Tibetan Buddhism, wisdom, compassion. Sometimes skillful means power included in compassion, but separating out the skillful means. And so here's an act of compassion, wanting to do something for peace. So there was another instance of a man who joined the march in Virginia, and he was in a wheelchair, and he wanted to, um, yeah, he wanted to be a part of this. He said something about that he was trying to gain more independence in his life, right? But as he went along in the march, he saw how people helped him. Like people, it was icy, and he other people would just help him out along the way because there are a lot of people supporting these monks along the way, right? And so he said, I have been on this journey of trying to find my independence, but being on this walk has really shown me just how connected we really are. So sometimes we have that. That's a big push in this in our culture in the West. I think of being independent and finding your own way and sort of uh, a bit of a me. But in a way, he found his independence through. So we'll get into that more a little later. But I just thought these these comments, this is something we can do to help inspire us throughout the day. Is look for stories, look for things that are um, very positive. People are doing very. They don't often get front page, so we have to search for them sometimes. Um, Last week we talked a lot about equanimity. We did a meditation on equanimity, how important that is. Equanimity meaning really feeling that um, this idea of friend, enemy, stranger is a construct, and it's fluid. And so the more we go up and down with that, then it's sort of like Lamiashi called it the yo-yo mind. I like you, I don't like you, I don't even know you anymore, or just the way we treat people on the street. Sometimes we make judgments just by seeing somebody, and then it's our mind doing that. It's not them doing it to us. And so, again, in Tibetan Buddhism, the most important thing of body, speech, and mind is the mind. The mind is what is, our mind is what is directing us to do what we do. And that's based on our habits and our mental outlook and the way we see things. So the more we can kind of in the beginning kind of get a more, we're all in this together. We're all humans, and we all have the same problems in a sense. Maybe not specifically, but the same, wanting things, unhappy when we come in contact with things we don't like, unhappy when we don't get what we want, facing birth, death, sickness, old age, um, and then being plagued by delusions like jealousy and anger and strong attachment. So we're all in the same, we're all in the same boat. Um, and then how do we work with people who maybe are difficult, or how do we work with our own mind? So that's paramount. That mind. Buddha offered many teachings, and it's not just one thing. Like he taught to help relieve suffering. So like at one point they say he taught the existence of a soul, or and that's something that really distinguishes Buddhism from other traditions, is that this sense of self, of being independent, singular, permanent, is an illusion, a delusion, and it's the root of our suffering because it doesn't align with reality. We don't, and then there's all these meditations where you can search for that I, the one we just assume is there. I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do that today, and then I feel this. So um, doesn't mean there isn't one. It just means it doesn't exist so solidly and permanently like that. Does that make sense? So that's the root cause, and so of our suffering. So, but he offered many teachings, and sometimes it's sort of like, you don't teach a child to ride a bicycle before they can walk. Could you? Well, when they're crawling, you wouldn't teach them to ride a bike. You would. It's steps, right? So we have to know our capacity and what we need in the moment, uh, in a Buddhist path, in a way. Like what do I need to work on right now for myself? So there's this sort of step by step, but also, maybe I need this today. I'm feeling really down today. I need to think about how fortunate I am, how great, and think of the things that are beneficial to me. If we get really arrogant, we might want to think like we could die at any moment. That might be the thing to meditate on, if we get so full of ourselves. Um, so it's wonderful that way. There's so many things like that. Um, I'll just throw this one out. If you're feeling really like envious of somebody, um, an antidote in Buddhism that or you're competitive with somebody. And what we had, so this is why this emphasis on suffering is because we have to see how those negative emotions disturb our mind, how they agitate our mind. That's why we sit and we look and just be with whatever comes up to sort of get an idea of what's going on. What? Wow, wow. I was better off not meditating. But because so much starts to become, we become aware of, conscious of so much that's going on in our mind, and it's like, wow, I didn't think that was there, but it came up before, but we had all these ways to distract ourselves or to do something else or just cover it over, right? So and then there's the joy in that, because if you can clear these things up, then they don't keep popping up. We don't have to keep running away. Our life isn't governed by negative emotions like anger. So I got envious of Bev. She was really my wife. So she was really good at something that I was much better at than I was, right? And so I was like this has come up a couple times, this sort of emotion of being wanting something that I don't have, right? That somebody else has. You know this one? Anybody familiar with this? No, no one's ever had this one. So, so I think what happened was, and I thought, well, forget that. I'm in pain having this emotion. I'm in pain having this desire, this envy. It's causing me to be depressed, to put myself down. Like they're better than I am. I can't do it. So you put yourself down, and then you can't even perform. You can't even do what you need to do because you're like tied up in a knot. So I go to the Buddhist medicine cabinet, uh, meditation cabinet, and look up what's the antidote for, you go for aspirin when you have a headache. What do you go for mentally when you have jealousy or envy or competitiveness? What do you do? What do you reach for? Oh yeah, it says rejoicing. Wow, rejoicing. Okay, I'll try that. I'm really happy that she's doing well. And I go, hell if you are. Who are you trying to fool? The mind comes back. You have to, becomes this thing. And I go, well, I mean, it's really nice to see her happy. It's nice to see somebody else happy. It's hard to be happy. And wait, it's really good that somebody's good at this. Somebody around me is good at this. I could learn from them, you know? So you start working with it. That's what meditation is. That's what this is. It's a mind training. And you work at it, and you come around to this other attitude that the more you develop it, the more it might actually take over. Or when jealousy comes up, it doesn't stay that long, right? Because you remember to be uh, you remember that in your mind, that experience. Okay? So it's not just sitting on the cushion and, watch my breath for a while and, oh, now I feel good, I'll get up and go do my usual. It's really trying to uh, change the usual. Yeah. Yeah, please. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, if we don't, I mean, there's Lama said, the kinder we are to ourselves, the kinder we will be with others. So we really have to be very kind to ourselves, very patient. It doesn't mean, I'm going to lay on the couch and eat ice cream all day, because that's not very kind, because I'm going to have a stomach ache, but it's like being patient and being, like when we start putting ourselves down, we say, well, wait a minute, what do where's that? I'll get into some more of that, but yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's sort of like starting off with joy. I'm so fortunate. I'm so lucky to be in this position to have, like uh, teachers. This teachers talk like that. It's like that's how you start. Just realizing how fortunate to be in and have this opportunity. And there's a lot that's gone on, and so then you have to figure out how to deal with things that have happened. That's why I think for me, therapy and meditation went together, to work through some of those things. But then you have to find the kind of meditation. I think I just read something about therapy that really resonated for me before I read something that it's not the type of the model they use, because there's like 500 different models. It's the rapport between the therapist and you. But then I read recently, it's not so much that, it's how willing you are to experience your experience, like to be with what you're experiencing. So like if we're not being kind to ourselves, then to be able to or like for me, being anxious or being afraid of something, to be able to be with that, not letting it sweep us away, but being in more of a um, being in awareness and watching it in a way, like seeing what it does, seeing where it comes from, where it stays, where it goes, or just having a conversation with it. I've done that too. I think there's lots of different techniques, like fear. What are you trying to tell me right now? It seems like what you're trying to tell me isn't helping me in this situation, you know? So, um, yeah, is that sort of what we'll get into a little more, but yeah, huge, huge thing to be kind for ourselves. Like I said last week, His Holiness says, I love myself. His Holiness said that, so this sort of working on having self confidence and we can do it. A lot of times it's not so much the task, it's thinking we can't handle it. You ever think of it that way? Think of that sometimes. Like emotion or something. It's not so much the emotion, it's that I'm feeling I can't handle it. Does that make sense? Yeah, I don't know what to do. So we don't access our knowledge, or like think of like what we can do is think of situations where we have handled it, where we have been able to. That helps sometimes, you know. Like, wait, what do you mean you're afraid of the future? You went off traveling by yourself. You didn't want anybody to go with you, and you saw it as an adventure. Now the future's you're going into a new situation and you're afraid. So what's that about? Why weren't you afraid then? And well, it's because I saw it as an adventure. Well, why don't you try that now? Even though it's a mental thing you're going through, why don't you try, wow, where will this take me? Because the other one, was very kind of interesting. It wasn't always fun, it wasn't always comfortable, but that's another problem we have. We seek comfort and we don't want hardship. We get caught up in that, right? Okay. Um, so last week, some things came up about fears people had, pains people were going through, negative habitual patterns that they had overcome. Um, so when we get better at being mindful of ourselves, it becomes easier to be mindful and more compassionate towards others. So it really does start with ourselves, right? It starts with being more all these things, seeing our own suffering, being more compassionate, being patient, be persevering. Sometimes we have to put something on the back burner and come back to it later. Sometimes we have to be really patient with ourselves. This thought keeps coming up, and we have to be like maybe spy on it. That's another one to do. Like when we're not in that frame of mind, we can think about like yesterday morning it slammed me at 10 in the morning. All of a sudden I was full of anxiety. So then maybe the next morning, oh, it catches you off guard again, and the next morning you're like waiting for it. So now you're in a different frame of mind because you're waiting. You're like, that's one thing, you separate yourself a little bit from it. I mean, it's not like you're dissociating. It's just like you're not going to be, wait, I don't want to get in that boat and go out across with you guys. This is stupid. This is crazy. So you stay on the shore, you know? It's just like maybe just being on the shore and seeing what the waves look like, the waves of emotions and thoughts, so that we can learn their tricks. We can learn what they're up to. We can learn, instead of identifying with them. This is something that comes up often. If we identify with our thoughts and emotions, then they start carrying us away. And the fourth week, we're going to get into this even more, that sort of method. Um, Oh, there's fear again. Oh, there's anxiety again. What's up? What's going on? You know, it's like an old friend, or it's Uncle Harry who keeps showing up and spoiling Christmas, you know. Oh, he's here again, but what are we going to do, you know? He's our uncle, you know. It's like find the good in Harry. Somebody said last week the pain about pain that they saw its value. Yeah. Yeah, there's just so many ways to go at it. Um, so I thought it would be helpful. How many of you been on the piece, the eight verses trail here? Yeah, some of you have. You haven't yet. Okay, so there's these 8 verses of mind training. They're called, and as I said, I don't know if I said it this way, but there's this self-grasping where we're holding on to the self-grasping means the self we're grasping onto is one that we see as being solid. Like if I say I, where do I feel that and what does it feel like? To me, there's sort of this lump. Often it's up in here because there's so many senses coming out of the head and there's the thinking, right? But it's interesting to try to find it. Like where is it exactly? This sense of I, right? So holding on to that. So one way is to go at it that way. Another way is to come at it because coming out of that self-grasping comes self-cherishing. Like, oh, I I exist and I'm the most important person in the world. I'm going to think about and we have to be careful because sometimes in the West, and I'm susceptible, we we might put ourselves down or think we're not good enough, and that's not what this is about. That's not what uh, overcoming self-cherishing is about. And just look at His Holiness. He says, I love myself. I just don't cherish myself. I just don't think I'm the most important person in the world. Amazing, huh? And he's so important in the world. We all think I mean, I think he's pretty important in the world, but he doesn't. I'm just a monk, he says. I'm just a monk, Buddhist monk. And it comes out of deep, it's not just like a practice or oh, monks should be humble. It's like he feels it. I mean, I can't speak for him, but I think he feels that deeply, like from meditating and realizing how he exists so interdependently on others, and the elements, the air we breathe, right? The earth, fire, wind, the elements, we depend on other people. I mean, we can't even be in this room without our parents giving us birth. And then we think we exist independently. We can still think we exist, but you know. So the self-cherishing is another way to come at it, like combat, like like see how that's a misunderstanding to just cherish ourselves. How that's a misunderstanding, and that can kind of come at it from the other side. Does that make sense? Yeah. So these verses are really cool. I think they sort of talk about the self-cherishing. They talk about how we need to combat or confront our own negativities like anger and jealousy and attachment and stuff. Because that's really going to affect our interaction with others, right? One time when I first got introduced to Buddhism, I was in Australia to Tibetan Buddhism, and I was working at a mental institution. And on my way back on the train, I got just grabbed by this strong, like, just, I don't know, I didn't even, it was hard for me to name it. It was just really anxious and angry and upset. When I got home, um, I didn't want to interact with people, right? So I'm going to need a minute. I went, I went in to my room for a timeout, you know? I did. I said, I just think it's best for me to have a timeout right now and just kind of sit with this a little bit more. Another way would be maybe to talk it out with somebody, you know? That's another way to do it. Um, but not ignore it or act from that place, right? So these verses are really encouraging us to not act from that place. Um, so the first verse is with the determination to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I will constantly practice holding them dear. So this is that motivation, right? I I, I really want to get enlightened so I can help others, right? And so because these beings are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel. Wish-fulfilling jewel is something, it's like the Aladdin's lamp, but you don't just get three wishes. Like you've got this thing and you can get whatever you want materially, say. The sentient beings are a wish-fulfilling gem because um, I mean, just we wouldn't be here without us, for one, you know, and the stores we go, all that, right? And plus, we can't practice really Buddhism, can't practice this mental training without others. How can you be? Lama Zopa would say, it's really hard for me to practice patience because no one gets angry at me. So, um, so we hold them dear because virtue, you might hear that word in Tibetan, means that we're doing things that help others. Non-virtue means we're doing things that harm others. So sometimes people do, like there's 10 non-virtues: killing, stealing, lying, sexual misconduct. There's 4 of speech, um, and then greed and anger and ignorance. So some people, you could practice those because you don't want it, because personally you don't want to suffer, but they're about how we interact with others. So it's also, you can also do it to benefit others. Like I want to save life. I want to give to people, you know. So I think sometimes they're put down in a negative way, like don't kill. Well, how about, preserve life? I don't not steal. How about giving, and helping people that way, right? So so that's where they're very, they're very dear. I mean, it's a self. You can sometimes you think, oh, it, the Dalai Lama would say the most selfish thing you can do is cherish others more than yourself. It's the best thing for us to do. So that shows we have a self. There's a mind stream here that we need to take care of, and the best thing we can do is care for others more than. It doesn't mean be a doormat or be like, oh, I have to do this to feel good about myself. Love is a good day to bring up love. It's wanting others to be happy. It's not like I want you to be happy so you like me, or I want to do this for you so you like me. And compassion is you don't want other people to suffer, right? So it's really ties into this thing about what virtue is and why others are so dear. Because it's almost like a circular thing sometimes. It's like I want to get in line so I can help sentient beings. Who's more? Oh, the other. Who's more important, the Buddhas or sentient beings? Who's more important? So they go. So some people, oh, the Buddhists, it's teachings. Oh, yeah, but you can't. For knowledge, maybe Buddhists have more knowledge or more, tricks up their sleeves. But but as far as kindness, you can't compare in a way. That's what, yeah, you can't compare. And the other part is, how do you know who's a Buddha and who's not a Buddha? Who do you know, when you meet people, even if they seem irascible, how do we know who they are or what they've done or how helpful they are in the world? How do we know, you know? Anyway. Okay, the next one is whenever I'm with others, I will practice seeing myself as the lowest of all, and from the depth of my heart, I will respectfully hold others as supreme. Whenever I'm with others, I will practice seeing myself as the lowest of all, and from the depth of my heart respectfully hold others supreme. It's not about we're like putting it's not putting ourselves down. That's not what this is about. It's trying to overcome self-cherishing. So it's not like we're inferior. It's not like we don't know anything. It's not about that. It's about um, it's about seeing the good qualities in other people, seeing things that people do that inspire us, and saying, "Wow, I'd like to be like that." Like, "Wow, look at that person. Look what they've done." And not having the envy or the jealousy or the competition, but just being in awe. So this guy, did you see this story? The guy's in Florida. He's driving along and he sees this car go off the road and go into this pond, right? He jumps out of his car. He gets in the water. He pulls the woman out of the car. He says, "Come on, come with me." And it was sinking, and he had to only get out the back door. And he got her out, and he, you know, grabbed her to try to bring her in, and realized she was pregnant, and got her to shore, saved her life. She had the baby that day. And like they've all of a sudden they have this huge bond with each other, right? And he's going. What did he say? He says he called his mom shortly after, and his voice. She says his voice shook with emotion. Um, he saved the woman's life and the new life to be. He said that day left an indelible mark on the lives of the family, but for him it was a different level of crazy. All the things that are positive, it's just like wow, crazy to feel like I'm a part of something like this. And so you go, wow. I thought of this time when I was on a riverbank when I was a kid, and this some person went by on a inner tube, and it looked like they were in trouble. I thought of that this morning. I thought I didn't jump out because I thought, I can't see without my glasses. I'm not that great of a swimmer. Am I really capable of pulling this off? But some people don't even think of that. You know, Mothers have been known to lift cars up off their kids. And then I saw somebody else jump in. I went, okay, somebody will get them. But I've always kind of wanted to be able to respond more quickly to situations like that. So we have to know our capacity. We have to know our capacity. But unbelievable how life-changing. Just driving down the road and there's this opportunity, you know. She would have drowned. She got dizzy and she tried to pull over and then she just kept going and went into this pond. So she was dizzy from being pregnant. Yeah. So that's what that one's about. There's also this one of to be this dog in Brazil. The its owner died, and they buried the owner, and the dog for 10 years laid by the grave. The people working there had to adopt the dog and feed it and take care of it because it wouldn't leave for 10 years. I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm getting goosebumps. It's like that kind of I mean, you can make up we can pollute anything. We can make, it's dog, it's just a dog. But wow, we know animals, elephants. I've seen stories, things, oh, that's AI. They go, well, the anyway, the elephant saw the and got anyway. This one, 10 years. So when the dog died, the cemetery changed its policy and they let the dog be buried next to owner. Huh? And that changed their policy from then on. So owners could be buried with their pets if they wanted to. Anyway, we can look for stories that inspire us and feel that wow, I would like to be, that That's really great. You know, I can learn a lot. We can learn more from others when we're not as good as them. And so, yeah, not as good. I mean, like they do something that's really like the person jumping in the water, you know? Like we can be inspired by that. We can be inspired by that. We don't well, I could never do that. Well, I can't now, but I can see where it can take years. I see things in my own life, where I didn't respond the way I wanted to. My mom's falling out of the car when I was in elementary school. I'm in the middle, and her door opens. She starts to fall out, and Tim DeLuca, a little older than me, reached across and grabbed her. I just went into shock. Freeze, flight, or flee. Right? Well, I froze. I don't want to live out of my amygdala. This is evolutionary. This is to get out of our animal, right? I wanted to be able to help her, to grab her. What if she'd fallen, you know? And so I noticed this about myself, and then I noticed it in college where I didn't respond quick enough. So if it stays, put it on the back burner, or you just and then an opportunity came up where I saw that I actually did get to respond the way I wanted to. And it had to do with checking up what I was feeling, and in a sense, it wasn't taking me over, because if you observe it, you're in awareness, and you can still experience it, but you're not taken away by it. And then you can move into how you want to be. Yeah. So that's what this verse is about. And then in all actions, I will examine my mind, and the moment a disturbing attitude arises, endangering myself and others, I will firmly confront and avert it. So that, yeah, it means immediate, at the moment. So the quicker we can do it, the better, because otherwise it becomes a habit, and then it gets harder. If we don't think it's bad, then it'll just keep causing havoc. And once we recognize that it is, then that starts to slow it down, and then we can be aware of it. So it's a process. But this is Jado Rinpoche gave commentary on this recently, and he says this verse is talking about world peace, and His Holiness has always talked this way too. If we want world peace, we have to work on our own. We have to do mental disarmament. We have to disarm our negative emotions that cause so much problems in our life and other people's lives. So you start there. Yeah. Wow. So then actually we can get to where we're not reacting out of that emotion. We're responding, right? We know that we may even feel it still, but it's not controlling us, and then we can respond. We'll try to get at that some more. Um, uh, Got to keep. I'm gonna skip different ways to deal with harmful emotions. So let's look at some ways to practice these things through improving our communication with each other. Okay. Um, you probably heard of these things, but last week we talked about some of the things that get in the way of that. We've already discussed that a bit. Um, there's some things that we do that stop us, like catastrophizing. This is the worst thing that could happen. I can't stand it. This shouldn't be happening to me. Um, it's your fault. No, it's my fault. So we don't stay present. We get sidetracked. So it's about improving our emotional intelligence, right? So that we can regulate our emotions better. We're more aware, and we can have better social skills with people. Throughout, hi, throughout this all these steps, attitude is so important. I'm going to go through some techniques, but attitude is the main thing. I mean, if we have an attitude of when we're talking to somebody, if we can stay out of judgment, really hard. Just watch yourself when you're in a conversation. Like our usually we're in judgment. We're like deciding if we like what they're saying or don't like what they're saying, or we're saying, oh, this is dangerous. We're making some kind of conclusion about it or something. Um, so watch that because that usually doesn't go all that well. And try to stay being curious. Welcome, welcome. Hello. Hi. 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 Um, okay. Where was I? Huh? Yeah, stay curious or wanting to learn when you're in a conversation. Okay. And so in Tibetan Buddhism they have these way they often say this at the beginning of a teaching, and I think it really applies to just having conversations with people. That there's three ways we don't want to show up, and there's one way that's really good to show up. Okay, so and there are analogies with or metaphor or with like a pot. Okay, so if the pot is upside down, nothing can get in. So we're not even listening. We're distracted. Our mind is somewhere else. Nothing can. We're not taking in the information. Okay, we're not taking in the situation. We're not taking in what the other person is saying to us in a conversation. Okay, that's one. We're not getting anything. We're not taking anything in. Okay, the second one is the pot's upright. We're taking it in, but there's holes in the bottom of the pot. So whatever we take in, we don't retain. It just in one ear and out the other. We don't retain it. We don't remember it. It's gone. So it's not gonna be helpful, right? So all these are like it's not gonna be it's oh, what'd you say? I wasn't listening. I was thinking about something else. That's upside down. And somebody said something. These that's really good if you can have your own examples of when these happen. It's really good. So then another one is like, you know, what did you say this morning that was so important to you? Like you don't remember. You took it in, but it just went right out. Okay. So the third is you hear it, you retain it, but the pot is dirty. It's polluted. So you've misinterpreted it, you misunderstood it, you've got your own prejudices and your own judgments, and you've just totally reshaped it in a way that suits you. So you really haven't. So of course the ideal listener is, you take it in, you retain it, you and your mind's open, and you're open to the new ideas, and you have this curiosity. I think the curiosity and wanting to learn really helps. Like even Bev and I have been together over 50 years, and it's like if it's like I learn something new every day. I'm not just saying that. It's like that frame of mind is really not only really helpful, but like sometimes it's like, wow, I didn't know her voice sounded like that. You know, so it's like you really try to stay fresh, present. Attentive. We're remembering. Um, so like that. So I think these are helpful in conversations with other people. So another thing I think is really helpful in a conversation. So we're going to get into a couple listening tools. You probably know about these. You probably heard about them. But I think the same like with oh yeah, I listen. I know how to. I listen to people. I think that one about how do I listen? Am I curious? Do I want to learn, or am I judging? I think that's something for me is really really a good one. How am I listening? You know. Um, so then this next one is to determine if you're in a dialogue with somebody, whose problem is it? Have you ever heard this before? Whose problem is it? Yeah, whose problem is it? Like, is the person telling me about some trouble they're having with a coworker? That's their problem. It's not my problem, right? Or is it when I come home and the sink's full of dishes and I have to make dinner, it's really difficult for me, right? That's my problem. Not the person who left the dishes in the sink. That's not their problem. That's not a problem for them. That was so it's my problem. So it really helps to know whose problem it is. Like make that assessment in your mind. And even if it takes a little time and the person's expecting a response and you're kind of one time I did parenting classes and the parent came and said, I was I was talking to my son and he said something and I was trying to figure out whose problem it was and what state of mind I was in. And so I would respond and not react. And he said, Mom, are you all right? Because it was taking her time to do that. And she was more than all right. It wasn't just a knee-jerk response. She was really, and she was you're modeling being thoughtful about how you talk to people. So if it's not your problem if it's not um, infringing on your rights. Say, I mean, this is just one way to look at it. Okay, if it's not infringing on your rights, it's not something that's really bothering you in the moment. It's not or in the long run, or it's there's property being damaged, or what else? Someone's being threatened. You know, or the person's not able to accept responsibility, something like that, then maybe, I mean, there's gray areas, right? Where maybe sometimes it's both. You're both own the problem. So, um, and then you decide, and then if it's their problem, you do reflective listening. If it's your problem, you use iMessages. You know about these? They're It's really something to try to, you know, it's like riding a bike. At first we may not, it might be very, you feel this way because, we may use the form for reflective listening. Because what we in reflective listening, we want to reflect what they're feeling and the meaning and why. So the format is, oh, it sounds like you feel this way because. Can you tell me more? Yeah, you get curious. Don't ask, oh, why'd you feel that way? That's not it, right? Now you're judging, right? But what happened after that? Where did this happen? What went on when you met this coworker, and you weren't happy? Now I switched it, right? So that was one that was going to be. But anyway, say somebody comes and yeah, no, that was it. If somebody comes and that they're having trouble with a coworker, that's their problem, right? So you go, well, tell me more about what happened. Like spend some time, hang out. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's these different ways that people, to me, listening to somebody is giving. You're giving, you're giving your time and your space to them. And often what's listed is you give material things, you give protection to somebody, you give love, you give these sort of teachings that it's like teaching somebody. I don't like the one you teach somebody to fish and then because I for the fish. But you teach somebody to fix a car, and then they can fix their own car. You don't have to keep fixing their car for them. So Dharma is sort of like that. If it's everybody has to fix their own mind. Buddha doesn't fix our mind. We have to. He offers some advice about things you could do, and then we have to. So you're going to really listen, and what happens is they get to express their feelings. They get to understand their feelings. They maybe even get to figure out how to solve their problem, and everybody gets to see that having feelings is okay, right? And you're listening, and you're curious, and you're not expecting any outcome. You're not expecting to solve it. You're not there to do that. You're there to listen. You're a mirror, but you don't just parrot back what I was really mad today. Oh, you were really mad today. It's more than that. You're really trying to put it in your own words, and Aw, hello. How are you? Good? Oh, good. Bye. And so to me, this is a type of giving, where you're giving your time and energy. So you can, you have to be there, right? You have to be there for them. And you're kind of like giving your, now, some people say, Westerners like to say, well, you have to have eye contact. Well, that's not always the best thing to do with people. It's not always the best thing. It's freaky, and it's like not. In fact, there was a thing back when the Native American Indians were having were being forced to go to white schools, right? And the boy wouldn't look at his teacher, you know, and so he got punished for that. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Well, they don't do that in their culture. They don't look at the elders in the eye. So it's a lot of things we need to learn about all that. So we're not giving advice. One that I see happens a lot is we switch it to our experience. Oh, I had a really rough day at work today. Boy, my day today was just awful. Let me tell you about my day. Wait a minute, could we transition a little slower? Could we get me? Hey, I would do that when I'd come home from work, from therapy, doing therapy all day with teenagers. I'd come home and I want to tell Bev, what happened, all that. After a while, it took me slow learner. It's like, well, what about her day? I'm just starting to talk about what happened for me. What about what happened to her? Is she ready to listen to me? Huh? Is this a good time? You know, there's lots of things we can do to make it work. Sometimes we just start off in the wrong, you know. So it's quite a thing. We it's I think it's a way to really cut our self-cherishing in a way, right? To really listen to somebody, get into their experience, try to feel what they're feeling, try to really understand where they're coming from. Huh? Possible, huh? Um, okay. You feel hurt because you didn't get invited to the birthday party, right? They're telling you that there was this party and I don't get to go and everybody's going and I was going to go with so and so, but you just kind of summarize and you really try to. So what's that? You go and then you go from there. And it's okay to be wrong, and it's okay to say it sounds like this is what's going on for you. And then no, no, God, you know, it sounds like you're a little upset. No, I'm furious. You know, so you get clarity. You know, it's okay. You never listen to me. So can you tell me more about that? Like times when like be willing to when be willing to take the heat. And then if it's your problem, then you want to use iMessages. So iMessages have a formula too. Um, when this happens, I feel this way because basically it. And I found this can be quite helpful. I got very upset with a correspondence I had with somebody one time, and it took me a while, couple months to like calm down. And then I said, okay, I got to do an iMessage. And I wrote it and more than just that, but I addressed things. And I had a colleague read it and my wife read it, and I made sure. And then it was like, and I addressed my worries about what the repercussions of this might be, and then I got it out there, and I went, oh man, felt so good just to get it out there. I wasn't even thinking what the result might be. Unfortunately, it turned out good, you know. So I think it helps to calm down because anger is such it just so destroys so much stuff. So many problems out of anger, right? So many problems. So this, I think, can really help slow it down for us. Like, if we're thinking, who owns the problem? Oh, what's the best thing I can use here? Already we're out of that emotion and we're thinking about the best way to interact with somebody, right? And to me, that's skillful, I think. I don't know. What do you think? Anybody? Yeah, maybe. Okay. Yeah, so then if you have an iMessage, you give an iMessage like when I come home and the dishes aren't done. No, what's it? Here's a better one. When you don't call, I feel worried because I don't know where you are. When you don't call, you don't make it. You don't go. Um, you don't use you messages like you should be ashamed of yourself. Don't ever do that again. You're the worst. It's not a you message, right? It's taking ownership for how you feel. It's taking ownership for how you feel. Our feelings are our feelings. Not somebody else doesn't make us feel the way we feel. What about that? It sure feels that way. If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't have gotten mad. So quit doing that. When you do that, I feel this way because, yeah, when you do that, it really upsets me because I don't know. I had this, when Bev, when you're late, when we're going to go to a movie and you're late and showing up, I feel like you don't respect me. You don't care about me because you're not showing up on time. And, that's important to me, right? You know what she said? She said, no, I love you. I care about you. I just don't have the same value about time as you have. I mean, time doesn't mean that to me. If I show up late, that doesn't mean I don't love you or care for you. I went, well, yeah, I was brought up German. We ate at 5:30 every night. She's she's Welsh, it's like it's a little more fluidity. And she runs into somebody, she's going to talk to him. And I went, okay, wow, all right. So now when we meet for a show, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm not going to sit there waiting for you to come and be upset and blame how I feel on you. I'm going to be either in the car reading something or I'm going to go to a bookshop. Or if the show's starting, I'm going to get a ticket, leave your ticket at the box office, go in and get seats, and text you where I am. You know what happened after that? You showed up on time all the time. And I went, what are you doing? I was enjoying myself. So you have to expect that sometimes when we do these things, people will start to maybe try to get you to go back into your old pattern, or they're going to go through some change, right? But don't do it for that. Don't do it to manipulate people or to get them to do what you want. Don't do it for that. Do it because you're really curious. You really want to learn. You really want to be there for somebody. And then let it see what happens. Okay? Did you have a when this happens? Say it that way. Don't put a you in there at all. As a you statement. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Try to keep try to keep the you out of it. I mean, they didn't call, like if they but then you were expecting them to call. Maybe they didn't have that same idea. So you're right. It's like, when or you can say, what do you think, it'd really help me if you could call next time. Yeah. You don't want to what? Yeah. It's not an easy thing to do. No, it's not an easy thing to do. Reflective listening might be easier, right? But when you and some people don't like confrontation, and so even saying what I need is hard, or some people don't. Um, but other, Yeah, there's different ways to deal. Like the sink full of dishes. You know, when I come home and all your dishes are still in the sink, it's really upsetting. You know, I just do the dishes now. I mean, you know, why am I even making this a problem for myself? You know, I think that sometimes comes up too. Like, why is this even a problem? You know, but sometimes I think that format works. I mean, I've seen it work, you know, because the part of it is that even if it's just an internal process where you can calm down and get away from the and own the emotion and you know really put it out where like okay when this happens I feel this way because well then you can sort of look at yourself like why do I get so upset when there's dishes in the sink, you know, why it's not fair, is that where I go like sometimes that's what people you learn through these things. It's like somebody's upset about something but it's really about being in control or what's fair. And so it's just sort of, or me being on time, you know, means something from my past, my baggage. And so I'm making a thing about that. Now I'm still going to show up on time because I like to be, I like to get the popcorn and sit down and watch the stuff. You know. For her, it's okay, you know. So it's just sort of like if somebody doesn't, yeah, you're right. It's hard. It's not easy. None of this is easy. And then if we're not used to it, it's adds to it. But do you see how that could help? Could be skillful means for having conversations. Like just like whose problem is it? You know, they come in and they have something on their mind. Well, wow, this is when I get to pay attention, you know, and be curious and try to learn and you know, and maybe in the process. Have you ever had? I've had that. One of the exercises I had to do was I when I was an intern is I had to have a 30-minute interview with somebody and I couldn't talk. I could shake my head and go like this, but I couldn't say any words. So that's how I had to listen to them without responding. It was just a and they caught on I think they caught on to it and they kept talking, but it's like sometimes we want to interject. I mean, it was a good experience because it's like we want to say something. We want to put in our 2 cents. We want to, you know, give them advice. We want to, you know, talk about our experience, you know. So, um, but confrontation's different. And next week the class is on dealing with difficult people. So we'll get into that a little more. Um, yeah, right? I know. I know. I know. All these things are very, we all have our own different definition, huh? I mean, it's like we can all think of, can we all think of examples of somebody who we had a difficult time with? Somebody we had a difficult time with? Huh? Our situation, maybe. So, you know, it was difficult. It was hard. It was like, it wasn't, okay. So I want to do I was thinking of that we could practice these things, but we don't have time. So practice at home. How many of you have pets? Okay, well, you can start out with your pets. Practice your reflective listening with your pet, you know. So it looks like you're very comfortable there lying on that couch. When you don't poop in your, well, when there's poop outside the poop box, that's really frustrating for me because I have to clean it up and I clean your box anyway. I think it's good to be a little bit light about it. I had one with fear one time. I think I mentioned this. So I had asthma and bad worse before. I think you know the story, maybe. No. So I'm walking up the hill to my house. Lived at Vajrapani. It's in the hills. I'm walking up to my house. I have an inhaler, and it's exercise induced. And as I'm walking up the hill, I'm using my inhaler. I used it too many times. You're not supposed to use it too much because it can make you anxious. And then I'm thinking, oh, if I hurry to get home, I'll be safe then. But exercise induced. So I got just below my house and I sat down on a step and I went, okay, Fear, we need to talk. Actually, I need to talk because you've been doing most of the talking. You know, you've been telling me to hurry home and this is exercise induced. That's not working. So and you're telling me to use my inhaler more and that's not good for me. It's not helping me. And I respect, no, don't try to interject. Uh, so it became, it become lighter. I became right away. I became lighter because it hasn't taken me over. I'm not fear now. I'm talking to fear. Does that make sense? And I'm talking to it in a way that I'm trying to be respectful. But I feel it hasn't been respectful. It doesn't know its place. You know, didn't know the best. It didn't have the best methods. So I think we had a good talk. I finally got a word in, and I was able to calm down, right, and proceed on my way. But I think things like that are good. These things that come up in our mind, they have such power over us, and we need to check them out. Like, wow, you're really catastrophizing right now. Like you're saying, yeah. I mean, I don't know what you're saying. You're saying everything's doom and gloom with you right now. What's going on? Well, you know, then it comes in with all the arguments why it's so terrible, right? Or you're not going to be able to handle this. You can't stand this. It's not. Well, wait, you did handle it before, and this shouldn't be happening to me. It's not fair. Well, it is happening. It is happening to me right now. Whether it should or shouldn't or whatever, what's that going to do? So we have to confront these attitudes that come up in our mind, I think, right? We want to be happy. Um, so let's do a short meditation, okay? And then we'll wrap it up. If you need to leave, it's okay. If you need to go, it's okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Enjoy. Okay. Um, just sit comfortably. So this follows from the equanimity meditation where we saw that we're just like everyone else. We don't want to suffer, want to be happy. We have problems just like they do. And this is another way to weaken self-cherishing, cherishing others. Now remember, self-cherishing means that we just take ourselves as being the most important person in the world, which seems a bit extreme. We don't want to go the other way and ignore that we have needs and we need to look after ourselves. So it's not going to an extreme. So think about so meditation is also is contemplating. It's reading. Reading is one, reading and studying, listening to teachings, and then contemplating, thinking about it, and then using our mind, using our thoughts to lead us in a more healthy state of mind. And then the meditation is incorporated into our experience so that when we go out, we can actually see people this way in a new way. So we think about our situation right now and how we just right now how we're feeling about ourselves, and maybe this sense of I that we have is very strong, um, where it's located and what we think of ourselves and the sufferings and difficulties we go through. So all other sentient beings are very similar in this way. But one way that they've been so kind to us so many ways, maybe not intentionally, sometimes intentionally, being kind. Mothers, caregivers, certain are oxytocin, I think it's called. That's this bonding, wanting to look after. I mean, if our parents didn't look after us, we wouldn't have survived when we were young, just firstborn. We would have died if people hadn't attended to us, looked after us. So whatever their motivations, whatever their state of minds, if people hadn't taken care of us when we were young, we wouldn't have even survived. And then the the thriving we did, where we were given clothing and food and and doctors are involved, and there's so many people involved in all of that, and all the clothing we have. Like, where does that come from? Where is it made? How does it get to us? All the food we eat. I mean, it's good to sit and just go through details. Like when you see people in the fields, that's part of the food we eat. What does that all entail? What are their lives like? Wishing them well, understanding that it benefits us, what these people do, and we're connected with them. People who stock the stores, their DNA is all over the packaging we pick up, and then we take that package and take it home. Somebody had to put it in a package, stock it on the shelf, sell it to us. Somebody made the money that we use, actually made the money, like printed the money. Wherever we live, there's plumbing, there's electricity. Somebody had to build the house. Somebody had to mill the wood for the house, make the nails. So many parts, so many pieces, depending on others, other human beings. Not to mention what animals do to help. I mean, in the soil, and they eat things and drop seeds somewhere. Birds drop seeds somewhere else. People who maintain parks, um, maintain the roads. So worthwhile to think of these things. Can fill the heart with gratitude and love, wanting them to be happy. Appreciation. That's positive emotions. Feeling connected with others. Like the man in the Peace Mark walk who joined the Peace Mark in a wheelchair and found just how connected he was to others. May every day be Big Love Day, like today. May we feel universal love for others, wanting them to be happy. We can aspire to these things. We can want to practice them. We can practice them. We can want to be that way. Let it just sink in. I think there's sentient beings in our body that are doing things, right? It's not just outside of our bodies. We can look for ways to connect with people and give them our time and our space, and get to know them, listen to their concerns, empathize, see them as family. This only is to say, my dear brothers and sisters. How wonderful it would be if they could all live in love, myself included. May they live in love. I will help them all live in love. And may all the benevolent forces in the universe help me bring this about. Okay. We got to give books away. Is everybody's name in the do you have everybody's name? Diane, why don't you draw today? Yeah, you draw. Oh, okay. Who didn't wait? Who didn't get a could you see who didn't get a candy? You all got one? You're good? Diane, did you take one? You take one, Diane. Oh, okay. Well, I am too, but not that vegan. I'm sort of vegan. Okay. Okay. Two books. Drum roll. No. Oh, Joanne had to leave, huh? Well, I think you have to be present to win. What? No, no, he's on. That's present. We tried to hunt somebody down once who had left online. It was really hard. So, um, Rika. Yeah. Richa. 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 That's like my name with an A on it. Rich. Rich. Yeah. You win all the time? Oh my gosh. What is that all about? So this is Pema Chodron or there's Lama Yeshe? You pick. Okay. You like that? So these you can get through the Lama Yeshe Wisdom Archives. One more anyway. Congratulations. You're lucky. Um, Thanks for doing this, Diane. Ah, Shuba. Look at that. Do you have this one? Okay, cool. This is Becoming Your Own Therapist, Lama Yeshe. This is my first teacher, Lama Yeshe. Yeah, it's really, I love that book. Okay, sorry we didn't have more time for talking, discussion next week. Okay?